Right, guys, it's that time of the week again. Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Kickabout. This week is a special episode, I suppose, in the sense that we are going through our team of the season. And this week we are joined by Donnacha, O'Hara, and Dave, the Magnificent Four from the original first episode.
Oh, geez. In the
So
house.
you're welcome back, lads. I know we've could talk a lot about the football over the last week or so. Donnacha, we hope you're doing all right with that shiner underneath your eye. For any of the listeners, do you want to just give them a quick brief?
Yeah. So I was at the driving range yesterday afternoon. I was in the bay, earphones in, listening to podcasts, Grant hitting 7 irons. And I heard that there was this big bang behind me, which turned out to be the underside of a roof. And I turned around, and as I turned around, I got clocked right in the eyeball by a golf ball from some lad who'd shanked one from a couple of bays up. So the thing was huge and really swollen yesterday, but eyesight's fine, no broken noses, no anything. And the black eye, I was just saying to the lads off air, the black eye is shit. I woke up this morning and I was like, I can't wait to see how bad this is. I was like, is that it? Like, it was a fucking golf ball, a decent lick. So I'm very disappointed I don't have a better black eye. But yeah, I was unlucky in the sense I got hit in the face by a golf ball, but lucky in the sense that it didn't really cause any damage in the end.
Well, we're happy, and I'm sure all the listeners will be happy that you could make it onto the podcast.
It remains to be seen, because I'm going to throw in a couple of curveballs for this team of the season.
So right, we might just get straight into it, lads. Obviously, start with the goalkeeping position. Obviously, maybe 3-4 potential candidates, but O'Hara, we might come to you, and if you want to name us your nominee for the position and a couple of honourable mentions.
I think I'm going to go with Martinez with Aston Villa as my keeper this season. I know there was definitely contenders with the likes of Mendy, and like obviously Ederson had a very good season for Man City, but I've gone for Martinez because I think as a signing, if we were to do signing of the season, he'd definitely be one of my contenders as well. I think the difference he's made to Aston Villa, like Villa only just stayed up at the end of last season, where they've been effectively cruising for weeks. There's no worry of relegation or anything like that. First half of the season, there was talk of pushing for European places, which was outlandish compared to how poorly they had done the previous season and stayed up by the skin of their teeth. So he's brought such a presence and commanding presence to the back. All the defenders clearly trust him, and obviously the defence then, by osmosis, almost have had a brilliant season because they've such a confident player behind them. Target and Mings and the likes have all had very good seasons as well. So I'm going for Martinez as my keeper in the team this season.
Perfect. Dave, does Martinez make your team of the season 15 clean sheets, or did you go elsewhere?
No, I was on the same page. Martinez has been smashing. I guess the honourable mention would be Mendy. I thought has been a super signing for Chelsea. Even watching the game last night, I didn't feel Leicester were going to get the win with having him at the back. I thought they were far more solid than they were at the FA Cup final. I know Ederson has the most clean sheets, but I just can't take a liking to the chap. Maybe it's the tattoo on his face. I don't know. There's been loads of suggestions, but I don't particularly like the chap. But Martinez has been absolutely smashing. So yeah, he makes it for me.
Donnacha, hat-trick.
What are we talking about here? Who has the most goals?
What?
Come on, clearly.
Who's the top scoring goalkeeper?
Who's got the most goals? I mean, what are we fucking doing here?
I was waiting for that.
No, honestly.
There we go.
Argument, I'll give you that.
We've only just started. He's already trying to throw a Liverpool lad in.
No, that honestly, lads, Jesus Christ. I just
Goal
want
of
to
the season contender, in fairness.
I laughed for about 25 minutes. I'd say I sent a bunch of voice notes to people and I just couldn't stop laughing. What just absolute scenes. You think you're seeing everything in football and then that happens. On a serious note, yeah, I think it's probably, well, it's a full house in terms of us. We'll see what you think, guys, in terms of Martinez. You could actually make an argument for 3 or 4 guys because Meslier Leeds had a great second half of the season. Sam Johnson has been great in a team that was just getting peppered all year at West Brom. So I'd imagine someone will snap him up and he'll stay in the Premier League. But for the fact that Martinez was relatively cheap, it's the most Arsenal thing ever. Like, you have chronically bad goalkeepers for a decade. He's been on the books pretty much the entire time, and no one ever turned around and went, Emmy, he just made quite a good save. We gave him a chance. Very Arsenal-like, hilarious. Yeah, he does deserve to be in team of the season because if you look at what clubs have benefited most this year from having a good goalkeeper, probably between Villa and Chelsea. And I think Chelsea's as much to do with dominating the football, whereas Villa are obviously a bit more of a team that won't dominate the play, so the likelihood is going to face more shots. Yeah, now I'm talking shit. So yeah, Martinez for me.
Yeah, it's full house from me. Martinez just make such a difference, and kind of what O'Hara said as well, potentially signing of the season. But honourable mentions, obviously, probably similar to yourself, Donnacha, Meslier. I just think when you look at it, 11 clean sheets for Leeds, for a team that are involved in a lot of games where there's a lot of goals scored. 11 clean sheets is pretty impressive for such a young keeper. And I know he was involved in a couple of errors that led to goals as well, but he kind of bounced back from it and put in some good performances. Sam Johnson, Mendy as well, but full house with Aston Villa's Emi Martinez. So I might jump to the right back position. But Donnacha, we might let you kick this one off at right back.
Yeah, like there's a few different ones. I just really liked both of the West Ham fullbacks this year. So it was Kufal. He's playing right back as far as I know. So I'd be inclined to put Kufal in there. There's obviously a very obvious shout in Man City, which I'm sure it was probably your guys' call. For me, it's Kufal on the basis that he's chipped in with I think 6 assists, and he's got incredible delivery from the right flank, which like isn't entirely unlike Trent. Not as lethal, but certainly very effective, and bought for a snip as well. Like, I'm sure they didn't shell out 30 million quid to buy a guy from was it Slavia Prague. He's been a gem for fantasy football for a lot of the season as well. Like these teams of the seasons are regurgitating a lot of the same team, and I want to just deviate from it a little bit because I think there's a few guys that maybe are under the radar, and him being one of them. So I'll take Kufal right back.
O'Hara.
Yeah, I think Kufal's a very strong shout. Obviously, like looking at the players that could have made it over the last couple of days, I haven't put him in my team now, but I think an honourable mention for Trent Alexander-Arnold, because I think similar to Salah's first season, where he was just scoring astronomical amounts of goals, every season since has been like deemed by the passerby as to be like, oh, a poor season, where actually he's still been hitting brilliant numbers the whole time. Obviously, Trent had a poor patch during the season, but overall he's played, I think he only hasn't played in maybe 2 of the games this season so far. And he's still, I think he has 2 goals and 7 assists, which again, compared to his previous seasons, isn't what the numbers he was hitting the last 2 seasons, especially in the assists. But I think the last few months, the performances he's put in, especially since Southgate left him out of the squad, he's been one of Liverpool's best players. Like he was absolutely deserving of man of the match the other day against United. I don't think if I were to push for him that he would get into our combined team of the season, but I just thought he'd deserve to mention. I say when we did the mid-season team of the season, I wasn't on the episode itself, but I would have gone for Kufal at the time. and I was kind of deliberating between him and Walker. But I don't think, I think he was in one of either Carragher or Neville's team of the season, but I don't think he's played enough games to justify being in the team season. I think he's only played 23 times so far this season. So honourable mention for Trent, but I'm going to go with Donnacha and stick Kufal in there.
Yeah, well, the thing with Trent is, like, sorry, he's still the best right back in the world. You're not going to not. He is generationally talented in the same way that Philippe Lam was. And yeah, he might move into midfield, but like, have you ever heard of a right back who wins games? That doesn't exist until he's come along. So I just didn't put him in because I thought I'd just get a heap of stick. There seems to be some agenda out on Trent, and it seems to permeate into professional ranks as well, with the absurd notion that he may not go to the Euros. But yeah, it's a very good point in terms of Salah. You can't just because like he was so outrageously good and he's fallen off that, you can't just disqualify him as a shout for team of the season, because objectively he's still one of the best right backs this year.
This is it, because that was, to deviate slightly, remember Messi had that phenomenal season where he scored about 90 goals or something outrageous like that. He has still gone on to score 30, 40, 50 goals, at least 30 goals every single season since. But he's still considered for all the teams of the season and players of the season. So like that, Salah is the victim of his own really good season, very first season. And I just feel Trent has been hard done by. I really don't like the narrative that people just lazily stick to, where they're like, oh yeah, can't really defend though, can he? Like, that's such a lazy narrative to go back to. I really don't think it's accurate at all. He's come on a lot, especially in the last few months. So if we were arguing, I'd argue he's absolutely the best in the league. It's just as to whether he's performed best this season.
I was going to, just before I come to you, Dave, I was just going to, number one, say, is he Trent obviously worthy of an England call up? I 100% think he's put the middle finger up to everyone since he was dropped from the England squad, and he deserves to definitely be in the squad. It depends on obviously what games that England play. For me, depends on whether he features or not. But he 100% is in that squad. Like, there's no doubt about that. But the question I was going to just throw to you guys was, would you have Trent in your top three players, right backs of the season?
Yeah, definitely.
100%. Yeah, undoubtedly. Yeah. Especially you've got to look at a season. A season is lopsided. When you're taking a team of the season, you can say, oh, a guy who's been in good form recently, that's recency bias. It is to a certain extent, but a great example, like Son was on fire the first 12 games of the season. What has that delivered for his team? They're currently 2-1 down to Villa. They're playing for a Europa Conference. Like, the guys who are going to perform at an elite level are going to show up when it really matters. And the last 10 games, Trent has been brilliant. Yeah, 2 fingers to Gareth Southgate. Maybe that was the best thing that could have happened to him this season. So if you think, like, the impact that he's going to make in hopefully Liverpool getting top 4 is enormous. One of the most influential players. Himself, Thiago and Salah are basically dragging that team to the Champions League at the minute.
Yeah, no, fair point. Dave, right back.
Jeez, there's a fair bit to unpack there. Okay, so like I'm gonna kind of, Donnacha's kind of stepped on a point I was going to make, but sure, listen. We're looking at a team of the season, and I guess the idea is that we're hoping to look at the players in each position who have been the best in their position over the course of the season. Trent didn't have the best first half of the season, but I think that's completely understandable because he's 22 years of age. He's had 2 insanely great seasons over the last 2, and then he loses Virgil van Dijk. He loses any sort of stability or mature central defenders playing with him every week. He's playing beside a different centre back every other week, and it probably fucked him up a bit. And I think that's completely understandable. But listen, he's having a great tail end of the season, which is really good, and especially for England if they cop on and bring him. But for me, do I think he was the best the best right back this season? No, I don't. So I went for Cancelo. I think he's been a super sign, and City have been superb at the back, and I think along with Diaz, they've been just two smashing signings, and they've gone in and they've impacted. Honourable mention was Donnacha's tip early on in the season. I love James Justin. I think he's a smashing little player. 23 appearances this season, which, the tough thing with picking this team is you've got some players who were excellent but picked up injuries along the way, and it kind of skews your judgment when it comes to picking, because like somebody I think Dave said, like, there are players that are now in form, and their performances and their contributions at the business end of the season will stick into your head, rather than maybe players who helped get them where Leicester are and have been hanging on to for the last couple of months. So honourable mention. I think he's had a really, really good first season, but Cancelo for me for right back.
Yeah, James Justin probably would have been well in this conversation if he didn't get that awful injury, because he was brilliant, brilliant.
And kind of to back up that, like, I had James Justin down as one of my 3 choices. I agree with all the points there, that if he potentially had played to the end of the season, didn't get injured, he possibly could have been number 1. He's had that much of an impact. Again, signed for 2 million, I think, from Luton. He's got a couple of goals. I think it was close to 10 clean sheets for Leicester, but also he was able to alternate between right back and left back and fit in quite comfortably. And I also thought the games that I did see him in, he was very good attacking, but he was also very, very good at defending, and that's obviously kind of what you want in a defender. I was kind of tied between Cancelo and Kufal for right back. Just think Cancelo's transformed that right back position. He's kind of made it something new, and whether that's obviously down to Pep, his tactics, and it's also down to Cancelo as the player himself. But I just think, again, kind of with O'Hara and Donnacha, Kufal, he kind of reminds me of a Zabaleta type of player, and even just his movement and the way he gets up and down the pitch. He's aggressive. And one thing which I really, really liked about him, I can't remember what game it was a couple of weeks ago where they lost, and he was sitting on the ground at full time, devastated. And you could see how much playing for West Ham and winning in the West Ham shirt means to him. And he's obviously chipped in with, I think he said Donnacha was at 6 or 7 assists, which is quite decent for a right back. 5 million, can't go wrong with that. So I think Kufal just tips it for me ahead of Cancelo. And it's probably maybe Kufal, I don't know, has had more of an impact at West Ham than Cancelo has at Man City potentially, but I will just go with Kufal as the right back. So 3-1 for
City with all their clean sheets, and like, to be fair, their issue last season was, Laporte got injured, Fernandinho came in to play a makeshift centre back, and they were conceding goals all over the place. And they went into the market, they brought in Diaz, who I'd never heard of, brought in Cancelo, who I'd never heard of, and or knew very little about either. And
only 50 million quid.
Yeah. Well, like with Man City, the numbers don't mean anything anymore. They just throw the numbers out. They get in who he wants, and like, the impact has been has been incredible. Like they have been so solid at the back. So I have to say, I really like Kufal as well, but I think I just found it hard to get past the team that ran away with the title again.
Yeah, and obviously completely valid argument. Like I was caught between the two of them. 1 minute I was going with Kinsella, next minute I was going with Kufal. So
I heard word on the street is it's actually Sufal.
Sufal. There we go.
Heard that recently. So, maybe someone's been listening to this saying, Jesus Christ, lads, will you
These lads know nothing.
And I have heard a couple of commentators say Sufal. That might be a soft LC.
There we go. We'll chalk it down, Donnacha.
Sorry to the Kufal family.
Sorry to West Ham listeners as well. Okay, lads, we will jump over to left back. Dave, I will let you start with the left back position.
This is one of the most straightforward. Luke Shaw has been exceptional all season. I had him written off. I was done with him. I had enough of all the years of him being unprofessional and not being able to keep his weight down and coming back every summer and then picking up an injury. And I had all the sympathy in the world for the leg break, but that was 4 years ago now, and he just really wasn't showing the potential, well, any sign of fulfilling the potential that he had at Southampton and all of that. And of course, United signed Alex Telles, and it looks like it lit a fire under Shaw, or maybe it didn't. I don't know, but he has been superb this season. His touch is exceptional. His passing, his crossing, his defending, like he's just been top class all season. And I didn't even really think about an honourable mention for I like Robertson, but for the season that Liverpool have had, you can kind of you have a tough time trying to pick out another left back. Chilwell has had a good first season at Chelsea, but I think he was hands down left back of the season.
Yeah, perfect. I might just jump in before we go over to Donnacha and O'Hara. But I remember doing the team of the season or at the halfway point, and it was kind of when Shaw was starting to pick up a bit of form. But I think the lads that were on the podcast that night just decided that he hadn't been doing it for long enough. I think it might have been about a month and a half maybe into that spell. So we went with Cresswell. But again, I have to agree with pretty much everything you've said, Dave. As a United fan, I had written him off. As you can see, I have him on the back of a jersey there. I was almost going to get rid of the jersey. He's just improved.
Peel it off.
He's just improved so much, like you said, his touch. But I've been really impressed by his defending, and his positional sense, because I always thought, even at times at the first couple of games of the season, I felt he was getting dragged out of position, which meant Harry Maguire was then trying to cover his position, and it was just a complete mess at the back at times. But I think at one stage, wasn't it, he had the same amount of chances created as Messi in a certain time frame. I know they could be biased towards a certain player, but that's
time frame 14 minutes.
Huh?
14 minutes, is that the time frame?
I'd take it.
Yeah.
If we're doing that, I'm going back to Alisson Becker. I am. I'm only joking.
So yeah, Luke Shaw hands down for me. Honourable mention. Cresswell in terms of the assists, and you see the difference that Sufal and Cresswell have made to that West Ham attack. So pass it over to you, O'Hara.
Yeah, I think, like Dave said, it is unfortunately it's one of the most straightforward ones. As a Liverpool fan, I liked that he had been written off, because obviously it's funny when a United player turns out to be crap, but unfortunately he's turned it around, and yeah, he has had a very, very good season. There's no one really that you can argue against him. The only thing you can do is do honourable mentions, like you said, like Chilwell's done well with Chelsea. I think Digne's been quite good for Everton. And again, like Dave said, Robertson, again, while Liverpool have had a poor season, he's still been one of our most consistent performers. But again, compared to the standards that he and the team have set, you can't consider him for left back of the season in the team of the season. So, yeah, and people always are drawn to the type of comeback story that Shaw has done, with the broken leg and like that, like being absolutely publicly humiliated by Mourinho. Like that's a difficult one to come back from. Yeah, that's a difficult one to come back from when your manager is publicly absolutely lambasting you for you to. I didn't think he had the mentality. He didn't seem to have shown it previously to put his head down and actually work. So fair play to him. He's been brilliant now this season.
I've noticed that a lot of Liverpool players have been honourable mentions in all the positions so far, but Donnacha, we'll go over to you.
It's got to continue.
I actually think just on the Liverpool line, I think Andy Robertson's levels have fallen off a cliff. Personally, I don't know. I think he's wrecked probably, and maybe. Anyway, he's nowhere near the picture for left back for a team of the season. Yeah, you can have Luke Shaw, definitely no issues really with it, apart from the jersey that he wears and whatnot. He seems like a decent fella as well. He seems like actually he's quite a decent lad, which has zero bearing on picking a team of the season. But you always like to see that he's a successful footballer, but he seems like he's a decent fella, which is always a plus. The other one I would have had in the mix is probably Cresswell. I think picking the fullbacks this year is hard because a lot of teams are now playing 3-4-3s, and they're playing those wing backs almost as midfielders, and then they tuck in, and Leeds do it, Leicester do it, Southampton do it. A lot of teams have sort of gone to that, so it makes it a bit tricky if we're presumably going 4-3-3. But yeah, that's fine by me. I think we can sort of go centre back.
Yeah.
I think we could just go and pick one centre back because we know who the other centre back is.
100%. Just before we touch on that, just really quick, Dave, how much credit does Ole Gunnar Solskjaer deserve for the transformation of Shaw this season?
I think a fair amount, because listen, we know that there are some players that need to be left to do their thing, some need to be hair dried out of it, and some need an arm around their shoulder. And Shaw is one of those players who needs an arm around the shoulder, and he certainly wasn't getting that from Mourinho. And you know what? If truth be told, I didn't have a problem with it at the time, because I have this thing about players getting away with accountability for the most part. But listen, that he wouldn't be the first player to praise Ole's man management, and listen, he and bringing in competition for the place as well. No, I think he's a really good man manager, and I think he deserves all the praise if he gets any for Shaw's turnaround. As I said, I was ready for him to go, but no, delighted for him.
Alex Tella's signing of the season, maybe, I don't know. But as Donnacha said, I'm pretty sure we've all picked Diaz as one of our centre halves, have we? Yeah. So he goes straight into the team. Donnacha, do you want to just give a couple of reasons? I'm sure we'll all agree on the reasons.
Oh yeah, no, he's just a rock, and he's kind of a throwback in certain respects that he throws himself in front of everything, and he seems to be about 4 times the size that he actually is in certain instances. Do I think he's better than Van Dijk? Come on. But he's been exceptional this season, and he has turned a City side that really, really struggled last year. Defensively, he's turned them into the best defensive team in the league, and it's most certainly, if you were to weight, where that improvement has come from, you would heavily weight it towards him. He also seems like a leader, which is what City have lost a couple of in recent seasons. So yeah, I don't know if we're going to get to it or not, but he'd be my signing of the season as well. The fact he's only 23 is also really, really impressive because, Virgil came to Liverpool when he was nearly 27, I think. So for a guy who was not really on the radar of anyone to come in for relatively big money and do so well, yeah, he's been quality.
Yeah, I think it will be really, really interesting when Van Dijk is back fully fit and Diaz is obviously playing in the City team, just to see both of them playing within the same season for their teams and seeing how much of an impact that they obviously they will really have. And obviously next year will be interesting with so many teams potentially competing at the top of the table. So it'll be an interesting kind of battle to see who is a better centre half over the next couple of seasons with both hopefully staying fully fit for their clubs. O'Hara, I'll give you first word on the centre half partner to go with Diaz.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with John Stones. Again, another player who in the past I was never a fan of and took great delight in how he seemed to be really struggling after the move from Everton. But I think Diaz is a big reason for why he's played so well. It's similar to when Van Dijk came into Liverpool and whoever was playing alongside him looked fantastic. But Stones really has kind of really settled. He used to seem quite jittery and not assured in himself, where I think playing alongside Diaz now he looks like a strong, confident centre back, and I think the two of them are a brilliant pairing together. I know in some teams of the season people put in Maguire, and I can see why. Like he's the best centre half that United have got. Again, he's nowhere near the levels of the likes of Diaz and Van Dijk.
Like Maguire's best game for United so far has been against Liverpool.
Yeah, no, that's true, 100%. This is what I'm saying. He can be. He is their best centre back, full stop. And I thought it was very interesting how obviously he's been injured now for the last couple of games, and I think United have lost 2 and drawn 1 of the 3. Obviously it shows how much of an influence he has been this season and for the whole stability at the back. So obviously imagine losing all 4 of your best centre backs and see what happens. But I think Stones has been the best other than Diaz. So I'd put the 2 City boys at the
back. Dave, would you have a double up of City centre halves?
I haven't gone for Stones, to be honest. He was one of the players that I had in my head for an honourable mention, because I agree practically with everything David said. He struck me as jittery. He struck me as a very wobbly confidence player, and yeah, like coming in with a really, really solid centre back with him. He's had a very good season. It's kind of what they paid for. Something, what was it, 60 odd million I think they paid for him. And he scored 2 in one game, I think, as well. Like, he's good season, like a really good season for him. I have to say I'm quite fond of Leicester and the job they've done this season, and I think Wes Fofana has been an incredible signing, and the fact that the chap is 20 years old, I think he's just been extraordinary. So I went for him. The other honourable mention was Harry Maguire, because, and I really can't believe I'm saying it, because he hasn't overwhelmed me in any way whatsoever. But when I was looking at the team, when I was looking at players today before we recorded, his statistics this season are better than Diaz in every metric, like tackles, clearances, assists, passes, obviously aerial duels and everything else. But his numbers were actually better than Diaz, and I mean, he went 72 games on the bounce. That's incredible. Now I know that's counted in previous seasons, but to be so fit, to finally have your run stop after 72 games is incredible. So I think he's had a really, really good season, and we've seen already in 1 week how important he is and how solid he is and what he brings to the team. But I went for Fofana.
Perfect. Donnacha?
Yeah, I went for Stones actually. I think Dave O'Hara made a great point around the similarity between like Stones. His game is elevated because Diaz has come in beside him, a bit like Matip's game elevated and Gomez's game elevated when they were next to Van Dijk. I think Diaz is a calming presence, and that sort of rubbed off on Stones a lot. So he's the one I picked. Fofana would have been very, very close, I think, if we're here in a couple of seasons and Fofana's not in a team of the year or in with a shout. I'd be very surprised because he looks like a smashing young player. And then the one that I thought was left field, just an honourable mention. I'm not saying he would get in, but I've just been impressed with him anytime I've seen him, is Ben Godfrey at Everton. And he's played in fullback. He's played right back for them a little bit this season as well. But he was so good at Anfield against us, and he had Salah and Firmino and Mane in his pocket. And he's big, he's strong, he's quick, good in the ball. When Norwich sold him, or 6 months before Norwich sold him, Liverpool actually made an inquiry, if you believe certain people on Twitter, and they were quoting 50 million quid, and they were like, yeah, okay, see ya. It's still not worth 50 million quid, but I just thought he's had a really solid season and kind of gone under the radar a bit. And then my other kind of under the radar shout, which is more geared towards the start of the season than now, is Seiss at Wolves. I thought has been really good, but Stones for me.
Yeah. But yeah, kind of when it comes to Stones, I was looking up how many appearances. I think he played last night, didn't he? So that would have been 21 appearances this season. Obviously before last night, it was 9 goals conceded, but out of those 20 games that he had played, they'd won 17. So it shows what an impact he'd had coming into that side. But also you might look at it from another side saying, well, he only played 20 games compared to obviously Diaz pretty much played, I don't know, close to 31, 32. Maguire obviously until he got injured. So like it's kind of a hard one. And then Fofana obviously was out injured as well for a little bit. I think he's 26 appearances, but I'm just going to go with Fofana just because, again, when you look at Leicester kind of going through that difficult spell as well, I suppose with injuries, he was part of a side that were winning games. He was having an influence. Yeah, he obviously didn't have as many clean sheets, but for a 20-year-old to put in some of the performances he did and look like just a natural Premier League player, I was just very, very impressed to come into a Premier League and to be up against some of the best attacking talent in the world. He's done all right for his first season. So Fofana just pips it ahead of John Stones for me. Honourable mention, Harry Maguire. So that kind of leaves it at a tie between Stones and Fofana for the other centre half position.
You're the host, Gaz, man.
Yeah, I was going to say I'll have a look.
Be a dictator about it.
I'll have a look because we put a poll up obviously yesterday for team of the season for the viewers and the followers on Instagram. So I'll go back and have a look and see who won that. And that
like Stones is 26 years of age. He's a £60 million signing, and he's been there three seasons now. And then Fofana comes in last summer for 30 something million at 20 years of age to put in the shifts that he's put in. I don't know.
Yeah, like in fairness, Fofana was definitely someone.
Stones at this stage, like Stones has been in the Premier League for a while. You would expect he hasn't had to learn to cope with the intensity of the Premier League or any of that kind of thing, whereas this kid has. So that's my little nudge towards him again.
Yeah, no, if we had to choose, Fofana was definitely one I was considering alongside Stones, and it was just kind of the influence of Diaz on Stones that led me to go with Stones. But Fofana has been unbelievable this season.
Yeah, I just had a quick look. Fofana pipped it by 1 on the poll on Instagram. So there's our decision. But 100%.
There's your decider. He's in.
100%, Dave. We agree with what you said there. So if we're looking at our midfield, are we going with the 4-3-3 formation? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. So what we might do in this case is when we're going through, we might name our 3 players for midfield, and then obviously throw in a couple of honourable mentions as well. O'Hara, we'll let you start on this one.
Yeah. I think the most obvious one is obviously Bruno Fernandes with United. Definitely a contender for player of the season. The numbers he's put up this season are we just saying our 3 straight away, are we?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I'd go Fernandes. I'm gonna go with Foden in the 3 as well. And I was kind of struggling between the likes of, like, obviously Gundogan has done well in the few months where he was on fire, but it always kind of throws me when a player hasn't, been one of the key players in the team. Like Pep Roulette, none of the City players seem to have nearly hit 30 this season. So I think Gundogan or maybe Kante with Chelsea.
Okay, so which one are you going with?
As I said, I'm not really a fan of when a player, like Donnacha was saying, there can often be like recency bias with picking teams this season. And that's what annoyed me with the whole Gundogan thing, where at the time he had only done maybe a month or 6 weeks when De Bruyne was out injured. But
so Kante.
Because this is the thing with De Bruyne as well, because De Bruyne has still put up good numbers, but I would argue against putting him in the team because of a similar argument. He's only played about 20 games. So I'm gonna go with Kante with Chelsea because of how in accumulation with the Premier League, how well they've done in the other competitions like the Champions League and the FA Cup, and he's just by far one of the best defensive centre midfielders you'll find.
Perfect. Donnacha, 3 midfield.
Yeah, I'll take. I'm taking Gundogan. I'm taking Kante, and I'm taking the other lad, the second best Portuguese player in the league. So yeah, I love those 3. Gundogan actually offers more solidity than you might think, which is why I was tempted to leave Kante out and have Jack Grealish in. Grealish would be really close, in my estimation, and then some of the Leicester guys will be very close, but they all seem to be very good, but there hasn't been one shining light. So Yuri Tielemans is in there, James Maddison is there, Harvey Barnes had some really good weeks as well. But my 3 would be Gundogan, Bruno Fernandes, and
Kante.
Yeah.
And Kante. Yeah. Donnacha, any debates with any of those decisions from the lads?
Dave, what do you mean?
Dave, sorry.
I mean, I can absolutely argue with myself, which I often do.
I'll go make a cup of tea,
that's the late night show because shit gets a bit weird. It gets a bit dark.
We can do behind the scenes extra or something like that of Donnacha just sitting here on his own having a debate with himself.
Do you ever see that? Do you ever see the video of?
He gave himself a black eye.
Yeah, do you ever see the video of Jack Nicholson before they start shooting in The Shining, and he's getting himself amped and he's running around, he's swinging the axe, and everybody's fucking terrified of him. That's what you get. You get a bit of that, except the hair isn't long.
No arguments really. I'm not the biggest fan of Gundogan, but what a season he's had. I can't believe he's City's top scorer. That's crazy.
Is he?
He is, yeah.
That is.
Yeah, he's a couple ahead of Sterling, who's had an awful season. But I didn't think he could be left out. I think he's had a bigger impact than De Bruyne on this occasion. Bruno, of course, and because I'm a low key Leicester fan, I've gone for Ndidi. I think he's an absolutely smashing player as well. Another bargain that they got, and he's like Kante Part 2. Yeah, love him. Kante is just an absolute machine, and I love the bones of the chap. But I just thought I'd go for something a little bit different. So yeah, Buffon and Ndidi for me.
Interesting. Yeah. So Fernandez, yeah, in my team, Gundogan, I agree as well. I just think, I know O'Hara's making the point that he did it for a 6, 7, 8 week spell or whatever when De Bruyne was out injured, but I think that impact on the team where he's playing a bit further forward, but then when De Bruyne comes back into the team, he still had an impact from his more defensive position, if you want to call it, or more of a holding position. His numbers have been incredible. I think as well, when it comes to Pep Roulette, not many City players are playing more than 30 games or making more than 30 appearances in the league. So I don't think he was ever going to hit those numbers. But it's pretty much a goal every other game for Gundogan this season. I think his impact influence has been unbelievable. It's interesting because, again, on the poll, I think Kevin De Bruyne ran away with one of the midfield positions, and I think we'd all agree he's probably one of the best players in the league, if not the best. But I think City have shown that they can deal without him at times.
Well, that was it. It's the hope that kills you, which was the sense for every fan, every non-City fan at the sharp end of the league this season. De Bruyne gets injured, and you think, okay, they've just lost their star man. And then Gundogan just literally doesn't miss a beat. If anything, starts scoring more goals than De Bruyne can. And that was the end of the league there and then. You would think if you take De Bruyne out of the City team, like if you'd have done it last season, that City would fall apart potentially because he's so influential. And that just didn't happen. And the reason it didn't happen is because Gundogan just played 20 yards further forward and started banging in goals. So that's a big reason my team.
Sorry, Donnacha. There was a discussion after United lost to Leicester about how, Solskjaer put out a completely different team, made 10 changes, and they looked like a team that were all over, that had never played together, because they fucking hadn't. But with City, they don't have that. He can pep roulette to his heart's desire, and he can just take guys out, put them in if they're injured, move them around and whatever, and he gets practically the same performance. He knows what he's going to get, and that's just an incredible quality to have in your team.
Well, Pep famously just wants a team of 10 midfielders and then another midfielder in net.
It's just an unbelievable squad that City had. And the only argument I would say with Foden would possibly play him further forward in a team that's kind of his position maybe this season. But the third choice, I'll just give a few honourable mentions. I was looking at potentially Rice. I think he's had a huge impact at West Ham, and know a lot of West Ham fans are saying a lot of their success this season has been down to Declan Rice. He's kind of gone under the radar.
Myself and Souček there in the midfield.
Yeah, Souček was my third choice. I think, again, you look at him and you just presume he's a Fellaini type of player. You hoof a ball up, he'll control it on his chest. But he's pretty much a box-to-box midfielder. He's not afraid to kind of get stuck in with tackles, have some sort of an impact in the game. He's had a good few recoveries. I think it's 238 recoveries in midfield, which is pretty impressive for a player of Souček's kind of physicality as well. Like, you wouldn't expect him to get around the pitch as much. Came up with some big goals as well. I think it's 9 goals this season. And again, you look at the impact he's had at West Ham and what price. I think he originally came in on loan, and then they signed him permanently, so potentially he could be in for signing of the season or nominee at least. So yeah, Souček. Yeah, Souček is my third midfielder. which kind of leaves us at, all of us went with Fernandes, 3 out of 4 Gundogan, and then Kante takes the other spot with 2 votes from the lads.
Well, one of the mentioned there, guys, Dallas at Leeds has had a cracking season as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the only thing about Dallas is he never had a fixed position all season. So it's kind of hard to put him in a played right back, left back, centre mid. I think he's played left mid at times, probably played as a wing forward at times as well. But he's been a great sign of fancy football for anyone who managed to get him in just before he started hitting form with a few goals. I don't know, would anyone have considered Mason Mount?
Yeah, I think he's been really good.
He was
he's really come into his own then as well the last couple of months.
Yeah, he's a really, really good player. Like he kind of, people ridicule him for being Lampard's like little pet project from the Derby days and whatever, but he's one of all of the crop of those exceptional young English players, he's one of the better ones. Like, I would much rather Mason Mount in my team than, I mean, he's not young anymore necessarily, but like, I'd rather Mount than Sterling. Different players, granted, but as an attacking option, really impressive. I think, here's my shout. There's something about Mason Mount. He reminds me of Mario Götze in certain ways. And my shout is he's going to score the winner in the Champions League final, like Götze scored the winner in the World Cup final. There's a hot take for you.
There's your tip. Yeah.
87 minutes. Mason Mount is going to hit one from the edge of the box, bottom corner, to win the Champions League for Chelsea 2-1.
He's delighted for him though, because like this is the thing. Like Chelsea have always been this team who just pump in the money and they just have a load of different superstars from all around the world. But Mount has come up through the academy and is Chelsea through and through. So like you'd be absolutely delighted for him because it's his dream since he's a child.
I can't think of any other Chelsea player that's managed to do that. I can think of an unbelievably high number of players that managed to do it elsewhere. Having left Chelsea, we all know who they are. But I mean, yeah, Reece James, but that's this season as well. If you go back to like since Abramovich's money, has anyone ever come through the academy at Chelsea and made it?
No, I think Loftus really thought was in with a shout to maybe do it, but
who was that?
Loftus Cheek.
Oh yeah.
But then didn't, you know.
Yeah.
No, it's a fair point. I don't think any of them. Tammy Abraham, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
And that's being generous.
Yeah, I rate him though. I would totally have him as Liverpool's like auxiliary forward option for next season.
I'd much rather him than Origi.
Oh, don't just leave Divock. Just leave. The love is gone, man. Just leave.
That's another.
It reminds me of Danny Welbeck for some reason. I've no idea. It's his gangliness and
whatever way his proportions, the way he's put together.
We'll always have those memories, but sometimes it's better to just hold on to the memories and just don't stay in a failing marriage. Just cut your losses.
That's it. We have the DVDs already, so we don't need to be adding on to it.
Exactly.
I'm going to ask you guys, have you got a Origi on the back of any jerseys? No, didn't go there. Didn't go there.
As much of a cult hero as he is, he was never. Yeah, he's just never been the type where I'd make that step.
One of Liverpool's biggest like Twitter fan accounts, a guy called Nish. He's pretty cool, but he's got a 3-year-old called Divock, and I wonder what he thinks when he looks at the young lad now. He's like, maybe I shouldn't have made that decision.
Just guys on, I can't believe we haven't mentioned these two just on as far as honourable mentions are concerned. And again, you tend to forget the first half of the season. Harvey Barnes, what a fucking start to the season.
He was fantastic.
Like really impressive. And obviously Jesse Lingard as well.
Yeah.
I was going to throw that in. I actually have Harvey Barnes further up the pitch as an honourable mention. But I was going to say, in a way, I'm kind of happy that Lingard didn't make any of our honourable mentions, because what is it, 14 appearances, 15 appearances. Yeah,
that's entirely reasonable.
I would say I don't think you can make him for those reasons a candidate for team of the season. He's probably my next best for signing of the season because of when he moved, where West Ham were, and the expectation of every single fan up and down the country, including West Ham fans, that it was going to start to fizzle out a la Southampton. And it didn't. He just kept on scoring goals. And look, there. It's very unlikely now they get Champions League football. It's probable they now get European football because Spurs are Spurs this evening. And all these things.
it was interesting. I was listening to that Peter Crouch podcast, and I had Mark Noble on recently, and the lads threw the question of Mark Noble, who's David Moyes' favourite player? And normally kind of the cliche answer is, oh, sure, I can't really answer that, or he likes all the players. But Mark Noble was straight in with Jesse Lingard. Loves Jesse Lingard. Everything about Jesse Lingard. They live in the same apartment block. And you know the kind of piggy in the middle warm-up game. Apparently Jesse Lingard never goes into the middle because Moyes is like, that's a great bottle of wine you sent up to me the other night, so you're not in the middle.
Kid, I say kid, you know, the young lad. He'll be young when he's 36, Jesse Lingard, because he's dancing around the place. And you know what? Whatever makes you happy. I like that. That would annoy me, but I'm old and bitter, so you know, fair play to him.
Right. We'll move on to the front line, and we might just start with the main striker, and because I think there's only one winner really, but there's a couple of honorable mentions along the way. Dave, do you want to start with this one for us?
Yeah, sure. Harry Kane. Despite the inevitable Mourinho Spurs meltdown, that was always going to come. He's top of the goal scoring charts. He's top of the
joint top.
What?
Joint top.
Oh, whatever. Alphabetically top of the charts, and top of the assist charts as well. I mean, he's just a smashing player, and he just fantastic. There are going to be honourable mentions. I think we all love Ollie Watkins. Really, really top player. Iheanacho has had a cracking season as well. I mean, City must be looking at that going, why the hell did we keep Jesus and let this chap go? But Kane, hands down.
Just out of curiosity, if we couldn't pick Kane, which of the other two or three that you mentioned there would be your number one?
Shit. What the fuck are you doing putting me on the spot? Actually, yeah, no, do you know what? Iheanacho has had a really good season. Every time I see him coming on, I kind of think he's probably just going to come on as a sub, and then he goes and he does something and he changes games. You know, even last night when Leicester looked dead and buried, and Leicester weren't at the game at all. They didn't turn up last night. They're still hungover, and rightfully so. But no, I just thought he's been really, really impressive. So if it wasn't Kane, possibly Iheanacho.
Yeah, I agree with obviously Harry Kane. His numbers, his goals, his assists, the way he's kind of adapted his game this season has been really, really impressive. And obviously, I'd love to see him in a Man United shirt come the end of the summer. Whether that happens now or not is another thing. But I can see him in a United shirt ahead of a City shirt. But that's a debate and a topic for another time. Kind of next in line for me would have been Watkins. I think again what he's done at Villa, and since Jack Grealish has been injured, he seems to be the one carrying that Villa side. I know they're picking up a win here and there, but again, I think Watkins scored again tonight against Spurs. Obviously, Bamford has been very, very good, and I think he's either matched or beaten his goal scoring record from the Championship last season, which is quite impressive when you're able to step up a level and score more than you did in the Championship. Iheanacho, Yeah, again, he's had a great kind of second half of the season, but the amount of goals he scored and important goals, and he's kind of filled that void of Vardy. Vardy's turned into the assister now. But maybe Vardy does deserve an honourable mention for he's kind of adapted his game slightly, where he's still involved. He's still starting most of the games that Leicester are involved in. And then maybe an outsider, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but that would be at a stretch, to be honest. I think Watkins would be next in line after Harry Kane. O'Hara?
Yeah, I was surprised now he was your absolute last mention there, but I was going to do a shout for Calvert-Lewin because I think like that, obviously Watkins has come in and he's been such a good signing for Villa, which is why, he'd be more kind of in our line of sight. But yeah, I think Calvert-Lewin's done really well. Like he's still only 24, I think he is. And like if you think of Everton's team, if Calvert-Lewin isn't playing, who else do they have? He's literally their only quality striker, and he's leading the line. I think he's played 32 games and he scored 16 goals. So for the only striker basically at the club to be getting 1 and 2, they're going to finish pretty much mid-table. At a mid-table club, I think he definitely deserves a shout. Kane is obviously the striker we'll put into the front three. But if we were talking anyone other than Kane, I would have argued Calvert-Lewin. I think he's had a very good season and has just gone under the radar just because of circumstances of different players like Watkins and the likes.
Oh, fair enough. Donnacha?
Yeah, obviously Harry Kane, there's no need to even justify it at this stage. The only debate you really need to have with Harry Kane now is where does he sit in terms of all-time Premier League greats? And with each season that passes, he goes up another couple of rungs and overtakes some really great players of past years. He's at he's top of the assist charts as well. He's top of both. Like that is actually absurd that he's not a shorter price to be Player of the Year. Obviously he's in a team that are just sinking at a rate of knots. So that has a huge effect as well. My backup would have been Bamford, kind of largely because he seems like a great lad. He was on Peter Crouch's podcast a couple of weeks ago, told a couple of funny stories. He seems so like Peter Crouch. He's just happy-go-lucky. He doesn't take himself too seriously, loves the fantasy football. None of these are reasons to put a guy in a team. I'm aware of that. But I just really like him. And if that is true, if it's not true that he's surpassed his total for the championship, he's got very close to that, which is seriously impressive. He'd be my next. Watkins, it's also very impressive making the step up just on principle. Hat-trick against us when they've had a 7-2. So not having that, can't have him in the team for that reason. Iheanacho has really surprised me because I thought Iheanacho was going to be another Origi. He possibly still might be. Comes with a big reputation and then just fades off into obscurity. Fair play to him though. It seems as if from an interview I saw with him recently, like he's really had a tough time in terms of his form and his confidence, and it's not that he's not giving everything he has to make it at the top level. It just sort of didn't work for him for a while. So I'm always happy to see a guy sort of not have immediate success and actually really work hard for it. So it would be Kane, then Bamford. The whole Dominic Calvert-Lewin debate, decent clip, a goal every other game is a decent clip, but I would ask, what's the difference? Would Everton be a mid-table side without Dominic Calvert-Lewin? And I would say almost certainly yes. Even though, like Richarlison might have scored a couple more, I do understand they don't exactly have goals throughout the team, but they would have found them. So while he's had a really standout season, he hasn't actually moved the chains at all for his club. Like, not at all. Like, maybe he's moved the chains 4 points. So, blah.
Yeah, 100%. I'd agree with that. That's why, like Everton were going to be a mid-table club either way. But I just think with being pretty much the only choice as striker, I just thought it deserved a good mention.
Yeah,
Do you
no,
think?
legitimately. Like, I mean, it's a lot of goals and front loaded to the front end of the season as well. He did have an injury halfway through. He's earned himself a Euros place almost certainly. So yeah, good on him.
Do you think he's maybe suffered a little bit with James Rodriguez kind of fading out and not creating, I guess, as much for him?
Yeah,
Probably has. Like that. I wouldn't follow many of Everton's games, closely or half as closely as we would the Liverpool games. But like that, you would expect the likes of James and Sigurdsson to be the playmakers who set up all the goals for him. So with James being injured for a good portion of the season, you'd think logically that surely that would have meant a few more goals Calvert-Lewin's way as well.
I don't want to disappoint you guys either. Cavani has been a fantastic signing, and I'm delighted we've extended him. But just because he hasn't had anywhere near enough games to I guess justify being in the conversation. But I think he's been a super addition to the Premier League.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, no, Cavani wasn't getting even an honourable mention just purely because of the amount of games he wasn't available for. I know some of them weren't his own fault as well, but yeah, he's had a great impact. Delighted that we're holding on to him for another season. I think the younger lads, Greenwood, Rashford, can definitely, Martial, if he stays, can hopefully all learn from him. His goal last night was just unbelievable goal.
Yeah,
just not a fan of Martial, Dave, are you not? You're not a fan of Martial, are you not?
Absolutely not. No. I would love him to turn around. Like, how does he go and score 20? I think it was a career high last season, like 25 goals, and then play for 6 months, and score 3. I can't remember.
I think he has 7 in all competitions, or maybe 3 in the league.
Yeah, it's and I think 2 of them came in that 9-0 against Southampton. So, no, he's yeah, John. If you'd asked me like a season or 2 ago, I had him in the same box as Shaw. Like, get the pair of them, get them out. But he just blows so hot and cold. But the more I think about it, the more I watch him back. He's so limited. He's lazy. He's really not to be part of a team that's as sporadic and burst into life. All you need to do is watch a 34-year-old Cavani sprint around the pitch as a real number 9, and you get the polar opposite from Martial. So yeah, no, if Spurs want to take him and knock a few quid off Kane and send him the other way.
Oh my God, that would be robbery. Oh my God, that'd be Jesus. You'd be done for that. That couldn't be legal. You couldn't do that to Spurs. Jesus.
So honourable mention, no Martial. Just really quick, simple yes or no. If Harry Kane stays in the league, Donnacha, will he break Alan Shearer's record?
Yes. And I think he actually cares about that more than titles.
Yeah, I entirely everything Donnacha said. He's so entirely focused on personal goals. So
we're just going to remind people that O'Hara, and I quote this, I hate Harry Kane.
It might not be a direct quote, but it does sound like me.
No, it's just the AI has picked up. You've been on the pod so many times now that the AI can just sort of stitch it together.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to find that out, listen back to a couple of the previous episodes with O'Hara on. But Dave, yes or no to Harry Kane breaking the record?
Yeah, he will. If he stays in the Premier League, he will. It's just such an irrational hatred, and it's not based on any evidence or anything.
Based on the fact he's always trying to break the necks of centre backs by backing into them.
We could genuinely have such a debate on Harry Kane. Like, it is a founded hatred of him. I'll tell you.
Do you know what? I think O'Hara would really, really enjoy if Harry Kane ends up in a Man United shirt, because that hatred will double.
I don't know. I have this distinct memory of Alan Shearer being a nasty prick as well. You know, he didn't think twice about shoving elbows and stamping on people and all the rest of it. So sometimes you have to play dirty.
And that was back when that was the given. That was the going rate, you know.
Well, he didn't get to those numbers by being a nice bloke. You know,
that's true. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, before we get sidetracked, two positions to fill. We might start with the left side of the front three. Donnacha.
Am I doing both my picks or just off the left?
Yeah, we'll just do left and then
we do left and right.
Yeah.
So I'm putting Phil Foden further up the pitch. What a footballer he is. Oh my God, he's ridiculous. How does a man with that haircut play football like that? I don't understand it. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. It violates my eyeballs. Please do something else with your hair. He's spectacular. He's probably the best of all the English young lads and probably the best young player in the world right now. And I'm even including Haaland in that. I'm just saying on form, he's just been sensational the last while. Like, it's just a joy to watch. Like, that picture of him on holidays last year haunts me. The head on him. I'm sorry. Like, this is so unfair, but I just can't believe that guy is one of the best players on the fucking planet. That just blows my mind. But yeah, his numbers in that City team for his age, for who he's playing with, for the stature of the club, his performances in the Champions League. I know this is a Premier League team this season, but you can't ignore, like, he just ran the show against Dortmund. He just took the piss out of everybody. Yeah, he's quality, and yeah, I just have him further up. I just have him in the front three, and I wouldn't burden him with tracking anyone back, because give him the ball and just let him make shit happen.
Fair enough. Dave?
We'll
just go on the left hand side first, and then
go the left hand side. That's just a cracking commentary on Phil Foden, specifically his hair, because he looks like something out of the Commitments. Anyway,
got to for the last me Mike. He just said I couldn't go home.
But do you know what? Based on how much I enjoy watching them play, and even though injury affected the season, I went for Jack Grealish on the left.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in there and say Jack Grealish as well. I was looking at he's 10 assists, and was it Harry Kane's on 13? Jack Grealish has been out the last 11 game weeks. We could kind of see Villa were starting to fall off a bit of a cliff. When he wasn't in the team, the chances were kind of drying up for a bit for Watkins. I know he's been kind of leading the team at the moment. Again, I just agree 100% with Dave. He's been my favorite player to watch in the league this season. I think he's a shoe-in if he's fit for an England position in the squad, potentially even start at the Euros. So Jack Grealish just pips Donnacha's beloved Phil Foden ahead of Phil Foden for that position.
We can watch Phil Foden play football with a brown paper bag over his head. That would be perfect. Not even. Just wear a hat. Actually. Just wear a hat.
Just a beanie. Joe, I have to be honest. I think it's his face as well. He has this look of.
He looks like a little rat or something.
He looks like, do you remember that scene in The Commitments where all the people are coming up to the door for the auditions, and your man comes up and he's like, I saw the queue and I thought you were selling drugs. Like that's exactly.
It is so funny. It really is funny. Just like, you think young kids, star quality. Well, yes, but also very no.
Yeah.
And also face.
I know that it's very unfair, and what does it matter? You know what I mean? Like, Wayne Rooney used to get shit for his appearance, and look, he was one of the all-time greats of the Premier League. So, fair play to him. I actually, even though he's going to play for a rival, probably for his career or certainly for the foreseeable, he is a joy to watch. He actually makes a game better. A game is always better because Phil Foden's in it. Same thing for Jack Grealish. Fairness.
O'Hara.
To be honest,
on left side.
Yeah, I find it hard to disagree with both of them because obviously I said Foden for one of my midfield places because I totally agree with what the lads are saying. He's an absolute joy to watch. Like he's only 20 years old, and he's just lit the place alight. The way some of the times when he's been dribbling through players, especially in the Champions League games recently, he just makes it look so easy, and it's just outrageous that he's just this little young chap who has. I think it's phenomenal as well. He's come up through the Man City academy, which, if you'd said to me before Foden arrived, I'd nearly have said, "Oh, surely there isn't a City academy. Surely they're just pumping all of the money into the transfers." Because for a local lad to have come up through the academy and make it into that team and be a star of the team at 20 years old, like he's surely a shoe-in to start the Champions League final, which is outrageous. With the team, the amount of superstars that they've pumped the money into buying, I definitely think Foden is in like absolutely with the shout. With the reason I had put him in midfield is because I had gone for someone different on the left. Grealish I had looked at initially as well because I think before he got injured he was absolutely one of the stars of the season. But when I was looking, it was more just based on the stats. I went for Son with Tottenham because obviously, like you're saying, like Foden is having a phenomenal last couple of months of the season, which is obviously why everyone is raving about him. But I think it was Dave said it earlier, it could have been Donnacha. Son had a phenomenal start to the season, and there's been less talk about him recently, which makes you feel like he's kind of fallen off a cliff, and the likes of Foden have kind of had a better overall season. But when you look at Son's stats, he's played every game bar one, as far as I know, and has, I think, hold on, I have it here. He has 17 goals and 10 assists, which blew my mind. I really didn't know he had that many until I looked at it. And so obviously I was comparing him with Foden and Grealish. So in the league, say Foden has, I think, 8 goals, 5 assists, and Grealish has 6 goals, 10 assists. So just basing it off that and the fact that Son has been there every single game bar one, that's why I went with Son.
I mean, if it matters in this hypothetical dream team, the chemistry with Harry Kane is some of the best you've ever seen any two players have. Like, it's, 10 assists. I assume 9 of those are Harry Kane's, and Harry Kane's 14 assists. I assume 13 of those are Son's goals. They've been just class together. So it's very legitimate. I thought Son played down the right. I could be wrong.
I think he's changed.
He probably would, but that's what I have someone in mind for on the right hand side.
Oh, I do too.
I was going to say, didn't Harry Kane and Son beat, was it Lampard and Drogba for the most combined goals in a season, I think?
Yeah, something like that. And it was really early in the season too.
Yeah, they got that within like the first 3 months or something. So it was like, at the time and the form they were in, it looked like they were absolutely going to demolish the record.
Yeah, something crazy. So,
I do just want to say that it was a toss up between Grealish and Son because, like it's a recurring theme in this episode, but it's piecing together the early part of the season, the later part of the season, and what that
injuries
each player. Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate when a player gets cut out. When they're playing really well, and it shouldn't really take away from what they're contributing to their club in the season. So, when you take Villa were up in the Champions League spots with Grealish, and people were talking about Spurs winning the league when Son and Kane were on fire at the beginning of the season. But then Jose happens, and but yeah, no, I mean it was a real coin toss, to be fair.
Yeah, just before we go into the right hand side, I'm just going to throw in an honourable mention of Rafinha has been quality at Leeds.
Brilliant.
So deserves a mention for sure. I know he's been injured of late, but still he's been a joy to watch. Very good signing for Leeds. So we go on to the right hand side, and I might start first because I'm sure I will be crucified by the two Liverpool lads for this. But I've gone with Son, just pipping Salah ahead of this season. And again, I know you lads are looking at me being like, what is this lad on about? And Dave's probably the same as well. And to be honest, it was a hard one, because both, when you look at their numbers, Salah top scorer, Son with 17, both of them 26, 27 goal contributions together. Kind of just what pips it for me with Son, and I'm sure I'll probably be outnumbered anyways, but what pips it for me was the fact that he was in a Mourinho side that was quite defensive, that he was relying on pretty much one player in that team to help contribute with goals. So Son and Kane trying to contribute and I suppose create as many chances for that Spurs team, or try win games for that Spurs team, based on such a defensive minded coach. And I do think Salah is completely underappreciated by a lot of fans, and I do think he's underappreciated by Liverpool fans and non-Liverpool fans as well. Like, his numbers are unbelievable. They've been unbelievable since he came into the Premier League. But I think we all agree that obviously he hasn't hit the heights of his previous seasons, but his numbers are still obviously incredible. If you're still banging in goals and top scorer, obviously you're 100% in with a shout. But just on, based on the fact that, like, for me, Spurs were probably, what is it, they're sixth at the moment. You'd probably expect Spurs to finish fifth or sixth maybe at the start of the season. You probably, all the teams bar Leicester, you would have expected maybe to be ahead of Spurs. And maybe with Liverpool, you wouldn't have expected the teams to be ahead of them at the start of the season. And that's kind of just the main reason why Son pips it. So I will pass it on to Dave just before we obviously get on to the Liverpool lads.
I definitely disagree with you. Respectfully, of course. Without going too much into it, I don't think that Spurs team were actually defensive at all. They had fucking terrible defense. I think they were nearly surviving on Kane and Son and Højbjerg and those lads, giving them the start of the season that they got. But neither here nor there. Salah hasn't been as good this season as he has been in previous seasons. So to get 22 goals in a Liverpool side that has had a huge drop off is still really, really impressive. 4 assists seems very low for him.
That's because Mane and Firmino can't fucking score.
Well, yeah, okay, that's fair.
Sorry,
but,
I didn't mean to be so aggressive there. But like, he's made so many chances this season, Salah, that in a normal year, like at one stage, Liverpool's XG at Anfield was 17 XG, and actual goal scored was 1.
I was having a look here. Salah has created 11 big chances this season. So I don't know what you make of big chances, but I'm sure he's created other chances as well.
Yeah, listen, I'm sure. Listen, I'm picking him. I mean, it's a no-brainer. He's joint top scorer alphabetically. So yeah, he has to be in there, and on that right hand side, he's lethal. I do still think he hasn't been as good this season. I've watched more Liverpool games than I care to admit, where he has snatched at chances or hasn't put chances away that in any other season he wouldn't have even had to think about it. And maybe that's all psychological. Maybe it's all to do with where Liverpool were, and losing games at Anfield for the first time in forever, But he can't not be in the team this season.
Fair enough. O'Hara.
Yeah, 100%. Dave's dead right. What you were saying, guys, like he's entirely underappreciated and just not rated highly enough by so many people, which is outrageous. Like if you look at his numbers, his his goals per game and any sort of a stat, if you compare him to current players or past Liverpool players, like if he continues on, and he wants to renew his contract from what we've heard, he'll continue to smash every record in front of him because that's just what he does. That's what fuels him.
I just sorry to interrupt you, O'Hara. I was having a look. I think he's on, is it 97 goals in the Premier League? So whatever, just short of 100 in what seasons or whatever.
Like, yeah, it's insane.
That is unbelievable.
Like he's only like by the end of next season, I fully expect him to surpass Robbie Fowler, which I would have never, like when they signed him, I've never in my wildest dreams would I have put him in the same bracket as an amazing striker like Robbie Fowler.
That's a question. That's a question I'd love to put to you, lads. When Liverpool signed Salah, did you expect this sort of impact from him based on what he was doing in Serie A with Roma, and obviously on the back of his couple of seasons at Chelsea and obviously then Basel beforehand?
No, I didn't at all. I thought he would be a good signing because obviously when we signed him, I was looking into his stats and he kind of seemed to be on an upward trajectory every season. I think the summer we signed him, the year before with Roma, I think he had 17 goals and 11 assists. So when compared with the players we had at the time, he looked like brilliant. He'll fit in well. But it was a strange one because he seemed like a good signing, but we had already had Mane for a year. And it was kind of like, oh, well, they both play on the right. How are they going to fit together? And obviously, Mane shifted over to the left and they became an unstoppable trio. But yeah, so I thought he'd be a good signing, all right. But the numbers he's put in have been astronomical. It's unprecedented, really.
Donnacha?
Yeah, I'll be probably accused of being a hindsight merchant here, but I'm not saying I knew he was going to score 100 Premier League goals in 4 seasons, but I knew the guy had goals and goals and goals and buckets of them, because I even at Fiorentina he scored like 11 and 16. He just wasn't used. He was used as a winger, as a true winger at Chelsea, which was just dumb. I knew he was going to score plenty of goals. Not at the clip that he did. 5 games in, I was like, this guy is going to be like one of Liverpool's best goal scorers. I truly believe that, and I've loved him ever since. I love everything about him. I love the fact that he's underappreciated. Because fine, it's criminal. It's almost like there's an agenda against him.
It seems like that.
It does. I'm not going to start throw around silly sort of accusations about the motivations as to why he doesn't get the recognition he deserves. But he's carried that team all season. Without his goals, we are absolutely nowhere. And I mean, I'm sure within 20 minutes he's going to score again, and he's going to just drag us into the top 4. My favorite moment of Mo Salah this season is how fucking happy he was when Alisson scores that header. The most he's arguably ever celebrated Liverpool goal, and he didn't even score it.
It was amazing.
Give that man his 5-year contract. His conditioning is so off the charts. He is in such good shape and looks after himself so well. He'll be a top level goal scorer for the next 5 years, definitely.
And do you think they'll keep him?
Yeah. He's
I think
a new deal for Mo. Yes, please. If someone's going to leave, it'll probably be Mane. New deal for Mo. Like it has to happen. It just has to. You cannot find a guy who scores goals like that for less than just astronomical money in this market, and we already have him. He's
come in. Would you not see a Suarez, I guess, situation cropping up again with Barcelona?
No, because they don't have the money.
It's an entirely different situation than it was at the time.
We've won the Premier League. We've won the Champions League. He wants to win it again. He's happy in Merseyside. His family are happy. His kids are in school. He's an African footballer. It doesn't necessarily mean the pinnacle to him is Real and Barca. If the opportunity came along for him to play for Real Madrid, would he take it? Yeah, he'd probably consider it. He probably would. But it's not even going to come to pass. And I don't think he'll throw away what he has at Anfield for PSG, because he knows that the fans are coming back soon. And when the fans come back, he will, if he doesn't know already, he'll know how loved he is when the fans come back. And I don't think
the thing, because when
contract can buy that.
Do you remember when Coutinho was leaving, and obviously Klopp was trying to convince him to stay, and Klopp was saying, "Stay here, and we'll build a statue for you outside, and you go to somewhere like Barcelona, and you'll just be one of the other players."
Yeah,
I think the likes of Salah and Van Dijk and all, they know that about Liverpool fans. So Salah adores playing for the Liverpool fans.
Yeah, I think the penny has kind of dropped. I think the Coutinho example has really set it for everyone. But like Salah was never in doubt going to be in my team of the season. Is it the best season he's had for Liverpool? No, but you're measuring in his first season, arguably the best individual season there's been. Statistically, it was. Probably, I would argue there were players who had better individual seasons in the history of the Premier League, outside of just pure numbers. But
he came in.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Har.
I was just going to say, just to point out again, like he came in to Premier League with Liverpool, and like that, he had scored a good amount with Roma, but there was obviously the talk of, oh well, it's only the Italian league, it's far slower than the Premier League, he'll struggle or whatever. And obviously came in and scored 44 goals in all competitions that season, which was 32 in the league. So in his first season, broke the Premier League record. But then obviously there was the talk of like, oh, he's only going to be a one season wonder and all this. He's in, this is his fourth season now, and he's been fighting for the Golden Boot in every single season. He shared it last year. Was it last year or the year before?
With Mane, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, with Aubameyang and Mane, yeah. So he won it the first two seasons. I think he missed out by 2 last year. He was in with the shout up until the last game or the last 2 games. And then again, we're looking at it again this season. 2 games to go? He's joint top scorer.
He will win it as well, because he's going to score tonight and he's going to get 2 on Sunday. Facts.
The question I wanted to ask you, Liverpool lads, just before we
hang on, just before we go. So Mason Mount's going to score in the Champions League final. Mo Salah's going to be at Liverpool for the next 5 seasons. He's going to score tonight and then 2 on Sunday. Is that right?
Yeah, and Rory McIlroy wins the USPGA. I'm a savant, lads. I've got the Back to the Future almanac. I'm actually from
imagine. This is what I was going to say though as well. You know what you were saying there, Dave, in terms of, you think if he's there another season or 2, he could beat Robbie Fowler. Like that. He's here. He'll be here 4 seasons.
You only need 1 more season.
Yeah, exactly. So he'll be here 4 full seasons now, once we've this season wrapped up. And he's almost in the top 10 goal scorers of all time in Liverpool history.
It's madness.
Insane. And if you look at the whole list, he's played at least 200 or 300 less games than everyone else. Like if you look at the period of time that any of the players above him have been at the club, they were all, the likes of John Toshak, Kenny Dalglish, anyone, they've all been there 8, 9, 10 years. And here's Salah right behind them, flying up behind them with 4 years. He's going to smash it.
Fernando Torres did it for a less amount of time. Fernando Torres doesn't even get near Mo Salah's record.
Literally.
Of goals per game. Doesn't get near it.
Okay, so I'm going to throw it out to you then, lads, just for and to try to reel back in the Salah love for a second, because
we saw him so much.
I saw him mention today about him catching Luis Suarez. Luis Suarez has a record as well. Now, I must admit, I prefer to watch Luis Suarez, and I watched an episode of Premier League Icons last week, and it was the Luis Suarez episode, and what a fucking player that man was. Like, he was
his season, his 31 goal season is alongside Ronaldo's as the 2 best individual seasons in Premier League history for me. Those 2 are, they're standalone, because Salah isn't in games as much as Suarez was.
Salah's just a goal scorer. He'll come in with goals really, really, really regularly. But like that, Suarez, I don't think I've ever seen a player like Suarez play for Liverpool.
So, do
just a
you
magician.
prefer Suarez over Salah?
I think to watch, and just because you never ever knew what Suarez was going to come out with, and
You definitely didn't know that.
like no, but some of the goals he scored, like the time he got, hat-trick after hat-trick against Norwich, some of those goals are unbelievable. The time he got 4, every single one of those 4 goals could have been goal of the season.
Maybe he'll come back for a couple of years. Who knows?
Imagine.
Like, Norwich could literally put in insurance claims for the abuse.
Norwich if Norwich find out that Suarez is coming back to the league, they'll just go, right, actually,
we were swindling FFP. You should kick us out.
Just before we rattle off the team of the season chosen by us, just one question on Salah, because obviously Liverpool lads will know or have a bit more insight into it, but obviously was the situation in one of the Champions League games with the captain's armband, and he seemed really pissed over that. Was that just paper talk, or was that genuine upset from Salah's point of view?
I think at the time it was more paper talk. You can understand why he would want to be the captain, because he has a winner's mentality and an elite mentality. He's the Egypt captain and has been for a while, and he's, he thinks he's the best because you need that mentality to be as consistently brilliant as he is. I think it's hard. I wouldn't look into it in terms of Liverpool, especially like with Klopp as the manager, in terms of, like, say, for example, Firmino being the captain there last week, where you look at the team on the pitch and you'd nearly think, oh, well, Andy Robertson is the Scotland captain, like that. Salah is the Egypt captain. Are these guys not more captain material? Where there's been plenty of examples over the last couple of years with Klopp as manager, where if there isn't one of the likes of Henderson, Milner, Van Dijk, and Wijnaldum, who are kind of his captaincy team, then it goes to whoever's at the club the longest.
Fair enough. Like, it was just out of interest, because obviously there was so much made about it for the next couple of weeks that Salah wants out, and then I think that's where I got the impression that Liverpool fans, not all of them, just maybe a small minority of them, kind of really underappreciated him, and like, no, we're happy, move him on. He's selfish, he's greedy because he wanted the captain's armband, etc., etc. But again, no one really knows exactly what goes on unless you're.
I think he was pissed. I think he was pissed, and I think he was legitimately pissed. But just because you have a row doesn't mean you break up automatically. Just one of those things. It's like Mane not shaking Klopp's hand because he wanted to start last week. I kind of want to see a bit of that. Like, I deserve to be here. Well, prove it, Sadio. You haven't scored many goals this year. Their heart in their sleeves. They all trust each other, and I actually think it's a healthy thing to see that they can have arguments that sometimes spill over into the media, because that shows that they trust each other. There's no tippy-toe. They can be entirely themselves in each other's company. And I think it's healthy. Yeah, and I do think that Salah was really pissed off. That game, it was in Amsterdam against Ajax, and he thought he should have been given the captain's armband, and I think he should have been too. Trent was given it.
Yeah, but again, going with that, it's entirely healthy, because all the players have been together for 3-4 years. They've built such a bond. So like that, a lot of them are just one-off situations where, obviously you're pissed in the moment. But like that, there was the incident with Salah and Mane, was it last season, at the start of last season, where Mane was entirely fucking raging with Salah because he felt Salah should have passed the ball.
Was that where Firmino was making the face?
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Yeah. But this is the thing, like, while it is clearly them being really annoyed at the time, the media always try and make it seem like it's something that's going to, carry on for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's just them in the moment as elite players and with elite winning mentality, who just want perfection at all times. And then, so, they would have gone into the training ground the following day and made up. Like, I was pissed off because I want to win and we want to score as many goals as possible. So they're like, grand, so do I. Let's do it next time. Grand, happy days.
Right. We'll just rattle off this team this season. So, Goalkeeper was Martinez. Right back was Sufal. Yeah. Diaz.
Apparently. Vladimir.
Vladimir Sufal. Diaz, Fofana, and Shaw. Then we went Kante, Fernandez, Gundogan, and then we went Salah, Kane, and Jack Grealish. So we'll post that up on our Instagram page, and get kind of other people's opinions on it. But we kind of, just before we finish up, we obviously kind of touched on signings of the season, young players who've impressed. So I might just ask you, starting with Dave, who's your manager of the season?
It's going to be a common trend. I'll be back to you. A common trend, but I think Brendan Rodgers has done a superb job once again. There's all this kind of talk about the team kind of falling apart and everything else when it matters, but he's grown, I feel, since last season. Last season they were a counter-attacking team and they didn't really have a plan B. Now they can really control games. Now they can they have a plan B. They have an alternative. His promotion, like, of young players has been so spot on. His signings have been spot on. To win the FA Cup for the first time in their history was just a clear joy to watch, and a cracking winner as well. Not in the Premier League, I know, but like, we know Pep is amazing. We know Klopp is up there with the best in the world. I'm delighted with the job that Ole has done. Steve Bruce has had a really, really good second half of the season. There's loads of there have been some really good managers this season, but yeah, I like Brendan.
O'Hara, manager of the season.
Yeah, I'd probably go with Rodgers as well. When it was put up on the poll on Instagram yesterday, Rodgers is who I answered. Like that, there's always this talk as well of Liverpool fans being like, oh, you might have, you mightn't be a big fan of him. I've always been a big fan of Rodgers. I thought he was really unlucky not to be the manager to win the league with Liverpool, and I was delighted with him when he got the Leicester job, because I think it's a job he deserves, and he's been brilliant with them. Again, like that, I don't like the narrative of, Leicester are bottlers and they're going to bottle top four again. Like, if they don't get top four just now based on the last few weeks, because they've by far had the hardest run in, and also they've made it to the FA Cup final and won their first ever FA Cup. I think a very strong honourable mention to someone who I've never been a fan of, but I think he entirely deserves an honourable mention, is David Moyes with West Ham. For the turnaround he's done with them, similar to Aston Villa in terms of they were so poor last season and very, very low down. He's turned them around, and up until a couple of weeks ago, they were still in with a very real shout of qualifying for the Champions League, and still are very, very likely to finish in one of the European places. I think it's phenomenal. Like, where last season they only had, maybe one or two standout kind of performances over the season with, like, Rice and maybe Ogbonna. He's completely turned them around this season, and they've all over the pitch. They've had brilliant performers. Antonio, Rice, Souček, they've all been outstanding. So I think I would go Rodgers, because I'm a big fan of him, and I think he's done a fantastic job this year. But I definitely think Moyes needs a big special shout out.
Donnacha?
For me, it's David Moyes. If you were to look up and down the league at where teams are and where you would have predicted them to be at the start of the season, the biggest gap is going to be there. He's done great. They're going to get Europe. West Ham are getting Europe. He bought well. He devised the right system. He bought exceptionally well, the two Czech boys, and bringing Lingard in was actually genius. And I never would have thought I would have said that 6 months ago. So for me, it's Moyes. then I would have Brendan Rodgers. Yeah, he's done a great job. Like the next time a big job is going in Europe, like and I mean this sincerely, like the Barcelona job, a Real Madrid job, a Bayern Munich job, a Chelsea job. Make no mistake about it. Whoever is hiring for that position has Brendan Rodgers on that list, because he's now in the top bracket of managers, even though he's got some David Brent-isms and, the being Liverpool, the envelope, good crack. And West Ham just got 1-0 up there. Thomas Souček scored. So it's Moyes for me, and then Pep third.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, Pep deserves a big mention for what he's done with City. Transformed them, obviously, compared to their season last year. Made key signings in good areas. Brendan Rodgers, obviously, 100% in there with a shout as well. But I kind of agree with Donnacha, and I know we all kind of touched on him. But David Moyes, I think he's improved pretty much every player on that West Ham team. His signings, like I said, Lingard was a genius signing. Souček, Soufal, even Craig Dawson, like getting him on loan from, is it Watford? I think in the Championship, that was a super signing as well. So David Moyes for me, but I know Newcastle are whatever 17th, but I think what Steve Bruce has done at that club has been sensational, because if you're without your 2 or 3 best players for a good chunk of the season, you're staring at relegation. You really are. And the fact that he has a fan base that absolutely hate him and don't support him whatsoever, I think the fact that he could go out and motivate that team to put in the performances, especially in the last month or so, to turn that season around again. Yeah, I know, but anyways, guys, we'll wrap it up there. Team of the season, Dave O'Hara, Donnacha, pleasure as always, lads, and enjoy the final day of the season.
Thanks,
guys.
Apparently, I'm the freak. Apparently, Chris Wood has missed 2 sitters already for Burnley. So it's time for us Liverpool fans to go into possibly the 7th circle of hell. Burnley are going to cost us Champions League football. Pleasure, lads. Talk to you later.
Chat to you later.
All the best.